But I was laughing. Stop it.
Welcome to the Izzi and Nils Show. Today, speaking at conferences.
My God, so deep.
That's what she said.
Wait. In this episode, we're going to be talking about why we speak at conferences and if it's worth it. And maybe based on our experiences, you can decide if that's something that you want to do as well. So, Nils, you seem to be traveling around quite a lot and speaking at many different conferences and events. How many do you speak at each year and why?
So, first of all, I'm not traveling for the conferences. I'm traveling to get away from them. No, just kidding. Not really kidding, but I give about 30 to 50 talks per year, but it's not all on conferences. Many of them are in-house in companies where I speak in front of a few people, but not like 500, but only maybe 5 to 10. But conferences, I don't know, it's maybe like 5 to 15 conferences per year. And I basically do it for fun. So I don't really get paid for it. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't, which I dislike, but we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it's of course for getting more well known in my field. And I think I don't have any other reasons than fame.
Such a fame bitch, Niels.
Yes, I know.
Nice.
Why do you do it?
For the same reason, of
Oh,
course.
such a fame bitch.
Yes. No, I also, so I started speaking this year and I mainly did it because I wanted to go to these conferences. And I think online marketing conferences are usually quite fun, like good people, good parties. But if you're working as part of a company, you sometimes have a strict budget and you can't go away to every conference, which is why I decided to start speaking, because I knew that the ticket price was usually paid for. So I could go to a lot more conferences and travel around quite a bit. And that was, I think, a good reason for me as well.
Okay. So you're selling yourself. What a bitch.
I'm not selling myself. I'm, how do I say, whoring out my knowledge for free alcohol.
All right. That's way better.
Yes.
I mean, so your only reason was to get to the conferences or?
No, it's not the only reason to go to these events. I also think it's kind of nice to be more well known and put your name out there, which is very terrifying, but still kind of cool, especially when you can meet all these experts in your field. And once you get to know them better, it's much easier to network with them and steal their secrets.
So you went to a lot of conferences because you were speaking there, because your employer sent you there, or you were going yourself, and you've seen a lot of talks. So what do you think makes a good presentation? What do you think makes a good talk? What is the recipe for that?
So I have quite a short attention span. And when I'm watching some talks, I do sort of drift off and I'm like, what is the point of this? And it's really kind of vague. So I think the most important thing that makes a good presentation is to be super actionable. I know that's so bullshit bingo. But I really want to attend talks that give me super concrete tips that I can leave
Yeah.
with and put into practice.
Yeah, I also think this meta level blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah is super boring. And I don't listen to these talks at all, especially when it says that in the title, like digital transformation, then I know which talk I will not see that day.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen some good talks like that, but it has to be like really kind of compelling, like a keynote style sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I really prefer the real hands-on to the point
Yeah,
talks.
me too. Also for the duration, I mean, I think this plays a huge role because if you
Mm-hmm.
see a speaker that is super entertaining, I think entertainment is one of the most important parts when you're on a
Yes.
stage. And when you have someone who's not that entertaining and he's talking about stuff that can be interesting, still after maximum of 30 minutes, I will stop listening or I cannot follow anymore
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just full with information. So I think the duration is also very important, which is why, for example, TED Talks, so everyone knows TED Talks, I guess,
Hmm.
they say it's 18 minutes because after 18 minutes, your brain cannot consume any more of the same topic in this, I don't know, in this time frame. So that's why they reduce it to 18 minutes. I think that's a bit short in general. So I think about 25 to 30 minutes is all right, but I wouldn't, or I usually don't like talks that go longer than this, except when I'm super, super extremely interested in the speaker and in the topic.
Definitely. No, I found that 20 minutes is too short for me. I always run over
Hmm.
because I really have trouble cutting things out of my presentations because I think, oh, that's funny, but that's great content and that's super useful to know. And I need to include this for someone to understand the next point. So it really becomes hard for me to speak in just 20 minutes. I think like 25 to 30 is the sweet spot, depending on the topic.
Yeah. Do you think that only for yourself or also for other speakers? Do you think that if you listen to a talk that is just 20 minutes or 50 minutes, do you think that's too short? That's what she
Um,
said.
nice. Of course, it depends. Some topics can be covered very quickly. Um, and yeah, like you said, if it's interesting content, but the speaker is putting me to sleep, then I'm just going to switch off and I'm already thinking about, okay, when can I leave and get a coffee, blah, 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 and so on.
Yeah, and what do they have for lunch?
Yes, it's always on the mind.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue with conferences because most or many of them, I guess most of them is correct, they pay way too less money for food and for catering because that's a huge factor in the costs of a conference. I know that because I had my own and we paid, I think, 97 euros per person only for food, not including drinks. But it was very nice food. So
Wow.
people talked about that and said, yay, it was the best catering we ever got at a conference. And it's one thing that determines how well people will think about the conference.
Hmm.
Although that's crazy and doesn't really make sense because it should be about the content, but it's also about everything surrounding that.
When I was in Brighton, they didn't have lunch, but there are so many good bars around that there are a lot of options. But I was too nervous to eat anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, but I guess not everyone is too nervous to eat.
No.
When we compare our style of slides, I think it's very different. So my slides usually are just black background because it doesn't get projected on the wall or to the wall. It's just the white text that I have on my slides that gets projected. So my slides are very minimalistic, while your slides are more unminimalistic. And I would like to know, how long do you spend creating your slides? So when you have a presentation, first of all, do you always create something new or do you reuse your slides? And how much time do you spend for that?
So I renew my presentation every time I give it. So I've spoken a few times this year about SERPs and feature snippets, and it's a completely different new presentation from when I started with it in the beginning of the year. So I think every time I refresh it, it's around 10 to 20 hours, which is quite a lot. But I'm also
Yeah.
not just working on PowerPoint and making them look pretty, but I'm also refreshing all the data and gathering all that. And it's also a lot of new insights coming out that I cram into my presentation. And I usually do around 120 slides, which is a lot, I think.
How long does your presentation take then with so many slides?
I can do it between 25 or 30 minutes. It's quite fast. Yeah.
That's what she said. When you always have new stuff. So, for example, I reuse most of my slides that I have, but I sometimes have new examples in there. Or
Mm-hmm.
whenever I speak in companies or at companies, I like to use examples from their websites. But for conferences, it depends on if you're getting paid or not. If they don't pay me, I usually don't do that much of preparation for it. So I reuse things that I've already said on other stages. And I always feel more comfortable giving a talk that I've already given somewhere else because I know the slides very well. So that's a bit better for, I don't know, for people who are frightened of standing on a stage. But how do you do that? So when you have new slides every time, do you feel stage fright?
I'm actually really terrible at getting nervous before talking. And I think this surprises some people because I come across as quite a confident person. But I'm usually behind stage, like, what am I doing? This was a terrible decision.
Do- Doing the voice warm up with the screaming.
Yes. And yes, I'll be rocking back and forth in the corner, close to tears. So I do get very nervous. And I'm lucky that the topic that I spoke about this year, I'm confident about, so I can answer like most questions about it, but you're never too sure what sort of things people are going to suggest.
Even if you get questions that you cannot answer, it's always better to say, I don't know, than trying to explain something
Yes,
that is not true or that, I mean, people will notice if you don't know what you're talking about. So I think it's human not to know everything. So you can as well just say that.
that's true. And what I like to do if I'm going with fresh slides is fully memorize the first 5 minutes or something, like every single slide, everything that I want to say, because after that small amount of time, I think the adrenaline has kicked in. So I'm standing on stage and I've lost the nerves and I'm confident and I sort of think like, fuck yeah, I can do this. And then I start to be more relaxed and I let it get more natural after I've gone through that first rehearsed 5 minutes. And that somehow works for me.
I think it also depends on the audience that you have in front of you, because sometimes I was speaking at like DMXCO or DMEXCO in
Mm-hmm.
Cologne, the exposition, and there or speaking there or speaking at other expos is really terrible because the audience is sitting there, everyone's just in the chair because they don't want to walk around the exposition hall anymore, and they just take a break there and they're not interested at all in what you have to say, so they sit there not laughing, not smiling, not interacting in any way, and it's really frustrating to talk there. And there I think you don't really lose the nervousness when you're standing on a stage. At least for me, when I was nervous, now today when I talk, I'm not really nervous anymore, except when there are thousands of people in the audience. Then
Mm-hmm.
I'm very nervous. But if it's a few hundred, I don't care, or I usually enjoy it. But at these expositions, I think I never lose my nervousness because it's just an audience that you cannot make happy because they are not there. They don't want to be made happy. They just want to drink their coffee and not walk, basically.
That's not the best situation to be in then as a speaker.
No, also, I don't speak at expos anymore, so
No.
that's all right. It was my agency time where you even had to pay for a speaking slot.
Damn. So you must get asked quite a lot to speak at events and conferences. So how do you decide what's worth it for you to speak at? Do you speak at every event you're asked at?
So first of all, I don't get asked that much. So I get a few mails every month if I want to speak at any conferences, but it's usually unknown ones. So the bigger conferences, they won't come to you most of the time, but you will have to come to them and you have to apply for speaking there. But for the smaller ones, I say no most of the time because I try to not give myself away for free all the time, because I think that makes being a speaker uninteresting. I noticed that I think 2 or 3 years ago when I saw one person at every conference I spoke at, and people started to say things like, "Oh, that guy again," and so
Yeah.
people were just not excited anymore. And I think it's good to, I don't know if you can say that in English, but to make yourself rare. Does that exist?
No, but
Okay.
we get what you mean.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's something that's important. And also, I started to not speak anywhere where I don't get paid. So at least I want to get the flight there, I want to get the hotel, and usually I also want to get some kind of money or some amount of money for speaking there, except when it's a very big conference or a very big event where it's good for my popularity to stand on that stage. But if it's a
Hmm.
smaller one, I usually want to get something in return, because after all, you as a speaker, you make people come there, so they earn something from your talk. And I think that's something people should pay for, and this happens not very often. So at least in Germany, conferences almost never pay their speakers, or at least most of them, which I find really terrible. And so I decided just not to do it anymore.
Yeah, I also have to be quite picky when it comes to choosing which conferences to speak at. I don't get asked as much as you when you said, I don't get asked that often, just 3 times a month. That's still quite often. Um, but because this is not part of my job, speaking at conferences, I think if you're in an agency, then it's kind of different. So it's more of a hobby of mine. It's like an extra out of office thing that I do. Speaking at conferences, there's so many I would love to go to, but I can't. All of that time spent traveling and prepping, um, and I would hate it to sort of impact too much my actual job. So
Yeah.
therefore, I can't do it.
But if you have a conference that you really would like to speak at, how do you approach it? Like, how do you try to get yourself on that stage?
So, as someone that is still quite unknown, it's harder for me to get accepted to these bigger conferences. And usually, like you said before, you have to apply and you have to prove to them why you deserve to be on that stage. But I think the problem is that sometimes conference managers like to book speakers that have already experience because they know there is less risk there, that someone will fuck up on stage, start crying or whatever. Also, it's kind of like a selling point for the conference if there is this famous name, and it's this kind of a vicious circle. I think in Germany you call it a devil's circle, right?
Teufelskreis.
Genau, nice.
Yes.
Because it's like, how can I get speaking experience if I need experience to speak? So, what I did and what I would recommend people to do is really start small and work your way up, like speaking at meetups. And there are conferences where they have many different tracks. It's kind of easier to get accepted for those. So in Germany, there is Campix, and in England, Brighton SEO. I think they don't really care if you're a big name or not. They just care about the content, and that's really good practice for you to get more experience speaking and also to work out the problems in your presentation, like identifying which parts are weak and need trimming or strengthening. So I think that really helps you build up to those big main stages as well.
If you want to go to smaller conferences or meetups, what would you recommend to do to get in touch with the organizers?
So in Munich, where I live, there
Yeah.
are quite a few different online marketing and UX and tech meetups, and they usually do a call for speakers. And that's kind of a chance where you can write to them and say, hey, I have this topic, and maybe it's not always fitting, but it still can be a cool presentation to show them. And I think that's a good way of reaching out to them as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because I mean, I think I've asked once or twice to speak at conferences, but that was always where I knew the organizers who pick the speakers. So that's a bit easier.
Ah,
But
okay.
right now, if I, for example, if I wanted to speak at something out of Germany, then of course it would be very hard because no one knows you. And yeah, how to get there. But I think email is really, or a call for speakers and then send them an email might be the best way and better than stalking them in social media and trying
Yes,
to send them a private message.
definitely. Also, what I've noticed is these huge international conferences like MozCon and SearchLove, they do community speakers, so not existing celebrities, but they welcome pitches from less known people in America and in the UK. And this can also be a nice way to jump up from the small stage to the big stage as well, especially outside of your native country.
I think you spoke 5 times so far. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And and you won 2 Best Speaker awards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at big conferences. I think it was one of them was SMX in Munich, which is like the biggest German conference for search marketing, and the other one was Brighton SEO.
No, you're actually
I'm so
wrong
bad
both
informed.
times.
Oh, great.
Well, the first one was part of the SMX. It was like this pre-conference just about international SEO, and I was speaking alongside some of my SEO heroes like Basti Grimm and John Muller, the Googler. And then I was named best speaker, and I got a little medal, and it was amazing. And the second time was at the Search Metrics Summit in London. I was named the highest rated speaker of the day, which was also very cool because it was the first time I spoke in the UK in front of my own people, which I was really nervous about. So yeah, I mean, having started so early just this year and already getting recognition for doing that is incredible. And it feels so good because I do put a lot of hard work into this, and it kind of sometimes kills my emotions because it's a lot of effort, um, and quite draining because of all the nerves involved. So getting those achievements, was nice to see that it paid off.
Yeah. Also, I think it's very unusual because usually when you start out with speaking, you're not that confident on stage. And I mean, it takes more than good content to get those
Yeah.
awards.
I mean, I really did not expect it. So actually, after the Search Metrics one, I think there were 200 or 300 people in the audience. And I remember leaving the stage, and I was ill that day. And I thought, I'm never doing this again because I thought I did such a bad job. And I was really
Okay.
kind of angry with myself, and I felt like shit. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. It's not worth it. And then when I found out that I kind of was named the best speaker of the day, I thought, oh, maybe I'm quite good at this after all.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, even I think it's very hard to get an understanding of if your talk was good or not. I can never do that. And I don't want to have an opinion on my talk. I always think people have to tell me if it was cool or if it was shit.
Yeah.
So but usually people don't do that. If you even if you ask them like, "Hey, how did you like it?" People always say something nice. They don't want to offend you or insult you or anything. But usually, negative critiques or negative feedback is the feedback that you would need to improve, but people won't give you that. So I think that's a hard part about speaking because you kind of never know the truth unless it's an anonymous rating.
True. But maybe they have nothing negative to say about your talk.
I don't believe that. I mean, there's always something, but usually when I speak at companies and we have some small papers where people should type down or write down their opinions, I usually say something like "be as brutal as possible," so
Yeah.
that people are encouraged not to be nice.
But is that good for you if they're really searching for something negative about the presentation, even if it was just like 0.5% of what they saw?
I would say for me, it's good because I can take critique very easily and I really want it to improve. And maybe that's part of my job because I think it's not bad to be bad at something, but you can always improve.
Yeah.
Everything can be tested, everything can be improved. And so I think maybe that's a bit different. And even if they say, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, usually they write it in a way, if it is the 0.5%, then they will say that. So they say, I liked everything, but if you want to hear something, this you could maybe improve. And it might be things where I myself think that's unimportant, that's irrelevant, then I will just ignore it. But maybe sometimes it's something that I think, hey, this could make sense. Maybe I should really change this about my presentation. And I think these moments, although they are kind of uncomfortable to hear negative stuff about what you did or what you said, still it helped me improve a lot with my presentations.
Okay, that's good. I think it also depends on if you're getting paid for this or not. So I don't get paid for speaking, and sometimes I pay my own travel or I take vacation days from my job, so I don't really want to hear negative feedback,
Yeah.
only if it's very constructive. I won't dig for this kind of negative feedback. If they say, I really loved it, but this I couldn't stand this part, I think I wouldn't be so willing to hear that because it's a something that I'm kind of donating to them.
Okay, so even if it's only 5 times, did you notice any change in your professional or even private life after giving your first talks?
I think it was really cool that after I gave the first couple of conference talks, I started getting contacted more and more to speak at other conferences. It was kind of like a domino effect. So one person would see me at one conference and then ask me to speak at their conference. And then at their conference, someone else would see me and so on. And
Hmm.
this was kind of cool to be asked to speak at these events rather than me reaching out and having to sell myself and create a pitch to them. So that was pretty cool. Also, I think privately it was quite nice that I met a few awesome people, um, developed some friendships as well, and I really liked having this opportunity to travel around and you know go to see new events, new cities. I wish I could do it more often, but of course, it's not always so doable.
So would you say that the networking part is important about conferences? Because of course on social media or when you watch a video or a live stream, you don't get in touch with the other attendees.
I think it's one of the most important parts of conferences. Um, I go to a lot of German conferences. Well, a lot, I'd say a few.
Are they nice to you, or do they just speak German when you're standing there with 5 people talking?
No, yeah, they are nice to me and they switch to English. But what I was going to say is all of the talks are in German, apart from maybe mine if I'm speaking and I don't understand German so well. So I'm not attending there to learn from the talks because I can't really. So in this case, it's all about the networking for me, which can be very valuable because if you have a drink with someone and get to know them, and it's not just about asking them tips specifically on a topic that you're struggling with, it's creating new friends and new people that in the future you can maybe reach out to and like have discussions with.
Yeah, I also think that, or I've noticed that the more people know about a topic and they talk to each other, the less professional the talks are. It's more about other stuff. So it's not really about SEO topics or CRO topics, but it's you have an exchange on another level than only on a professional level, which is cool because that's where you can start actually making friends and good connections and not
Definitely.
only, yeah, that guy is good at but I don't know anything else about him. So
Exactly.
that's cool.
I would hate to go to these events and it's just people in suits swapping business cards. That's really not what it's like. Thank God.
Not in our field, but in others
Yes,
sometimes.
true.
Yeah.
So, do you ever get paid for speaking at conferences? Do people generally get paid?
I mean, depends on the conference you go to, but or depends on your popularity. So some conferences will pay for everyone, but that's not that usual. And some conferences will only pay for those speakers that fill the seats of their event. So if you are one of those, I mean, it extremely differs depending on your popularity. So, for example, if you want Gary Vaynerchuk on your stage, then you have to pay 150,000 euros. If
Oh
you
my
want
God.
Avinash, yes, I know. If you want Avinash Kaushik, so the Web Analytics 2.0 book author, you might know him. Um, if you want to get him to your stage, you have to pay like 45,000 euros. So that's a lot, and it's ridiculously high for getting someone to speak there for a while. And I think this only makes sense if you have a conference with a lot of seats that would not be booked if you didn't have those speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but for normal speakers, I think it's pretty usual to get something between 500 and 5,000 euros, depending on how popular you are and how important you are to their event. Me myself, most of the time, I only get the flight and the hotel, and I would never go to a conference and speak there if they didn't pay even that. And if they ask me what I want for a talk there, I usually say something like 2,000 euros or maybe 5,000 euros, but that's it. So I don't go higher. I might do that one day, but I don't know. For that, I think you have to be some kind of celebrity to be able to charge like 5 digits for a talk.
Yeah.
I guess that's a long way to go. But yeah, as I said, so most of the conferences just don't pay you, and you can be happy if they pay you the flight and the hotel, and that's it.
Yes, I'm always happy if they pay those things for me. Makes a huge
Yeah,
difference.
especially if they book your hotel and you get a 5-star hotel instead of a 2-star
Yes.
or something like that.
If you were asked to speak at a huge conference, say in America or in England, but they did not pay you, would you still do it knowing that it could be very good for your fame?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I mean, my my heart is saying no, but my body's saying let's go. So no, no, but I guess no. Actually, both say yes. So yeah, I guess I would do it. Depending on the audience, of course. If it's something like, I mean, in America, you have a lot of these multi-level marketing guys, or in Germany, we have these buy my online course and get rich fast from home passively. And if it was an event like this, I would never go there
No.
because I hate these events. And if our listeners, if there's one of the guys who is talking at these conferences, fuck you. But
Nice.
um, no, no, seriously, I hate those people. I think it's the filth of the online marketing industry, and I would not go there if they would ask me. Even if they paid me, I wouldn't go. But I think if it's an event where there is a potentially nice audience, and if it's a potentially cool event, then I would still go there if there were a lot of people in the audience. If it was like 100 people, I would not,
Mm-hmm.
only if they paid me.
So you're also doing a lot of live streaming. Um, and is there such a big difference between live streams and speaking at conferences? Is there one that you prefer doing more?
I think at conferences, you usually have the audience that is more interested and that watches the whole talk. So when you do a live stream, you get these analytics of your stream at the end of it, where you see how long did people watch your live stream on average. And even if you have a live stream with like 5,000 viewers at the end, a view is only a 3 seconds view, at least on Facebook Live. So views don't really tell you anything. And you also see what people watched your video for more than 10 seconds, but also that is not really anything you can yeah, you can determine the success of your talk with
Mm-hmm.
or of your live stream with. So it's one of those vanity metrics that look nice but don't give you or don't bring you anything.
Yeah.
So I think live streaming, my parallel viewers are like, I don't know, something between 50 and 200 usually when I do a live stream. And this is not really that much. And also, you don't really connect to these people. So it's a different feeling if you watch someone on your screen compared to when if you watch someone on a stage and you can go to him afterwards and ask questions and get in touch really. So I think speaking at conferences is worth more than giving a live stream, but of course giving a live stream is easier, so you can do it anytime you want. You can just do it. You don't have to apply for it at someone or at some company or something like that. So I think it both has its advantages,
Yeah.
but I think in general speaking at conferences is what helped me having a name or getting to be known in the industry, while live streaming was also good for that. But I guess it takes a lot more effort, a lot more of time to get known through live streaming. And of course in the end it's always about the content, so you can give bad content
Yeah.
in a live stream or at a conference and people will hate you anywhere, so or they stop watching you anywhere.
But I think live streams are a good way to sort of retain those fans that you earn at conferences.
Yeah, true. Also, I mean, it's important that you still get in touch with them. So if they comment or if they like interact with you somehow in your live stream, then you still have to be there for them. So
Yes.
reply to comments and things like that. So it should not just be a one-way video where one is listening and one is talking. That's it. So that's not what live streaming is about. For that, you can use YouTube or any other static video platforms.
Cool. Oh,
Yeah.
we should do a live stream.
About what? About memes?
Yes. Let's do that.
Okay. Yes.
So after all we've discussed, all the time it takes and the money involved, that maybe the travel or the hotel is paid for, maybe it's not, do you think it's worth it to speak at conferences?
Well, I guess definitely yes. So even if the conference doesn't pay for your travel and for your accommodation, I think it's still worth the effort because, yeah, it just helps you get new clients if you are searching for clients, or if you're an agency, if you're a freelancer, it helps you to get new projects, to get new jobs. If you are like looking for a new job, if you're an employee, it helps you landing a new job. And I think it has no disadvantages. You get to know new people, and I think it's all positive. You just have to decide at some point what conferences you will pick and what you will say no to.
Yes. And it can be a lot of fun speaking.
Yes, that's true. I mean, of course, depending on what kind of person you are,
Yeah.
some people are very introvert and wouldn't enjoy that at all. But I guess everyone should at least try to do it and see how it feels.
I think it's very beneficial for your appearance as well when you're standing on stage and talking about a topic in detail. It's kind of a good trust signal to everyone. I'm always using SEO related terms. But
That's
if you're
right.
there presenting yourself as an expert in front of experts, then people, I think, they listen to you more, they're more willing to get to know you as well. And that's also a very good beneficial thing about speaking at conferences too.
Yep. I also think this, like having the recognition as someone who knows the topic, is super
Yeah,
important for everything.
definitely.
Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah, how do we end it?
Would you like to say hello to someone?
Would I like to greet someone? Like my mum.
Yes. And God.
Yes. Hello, God.
Hello. I think he won't listen.
No. Sorry, guys, but that's all for today's episode on the Izzi and Nils Show. So, thank you everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about today's episode, or if you want to ask us any question, or if you have requests, just tweet to us at #IzziNilsShow or through our handles, which you can find in the notes. Make sure to follow us or subscribe if you don't want to miss another episode. And the next episode, we're going to talk about our biggest marketing fails. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Creepy voice. I don't have any marketing fails, but I can think of some. I can make some up.